Far above the galaxy is where your home lies. UltraSeven, Fighter 7, march to the end of the big Milky Way. Ultra Ice Spark! Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Toku of the Tomodachi brothers, and with us today is Ultra Guard Professor Snek. Say hi, Professor.
I am here to help.
And also, I believe, an operative of the Land of Light, or something, Mr. Cog.
Hello, everybody.
And we are here today to talk about actually a huge milestone in Tokusatsu, UltraSeven.
Yes, the first episode in our Tokusatsu-thon.
Indeed. This one is important, not because it is the first Ultra series. It's actually the third. But it kind of became the mascot of the entire franchise. UltraSeven basically is the one that people think of, at least in Japan, when they think of Ultraman. He became really popular, and Dan Moriboshi basically shows up, at least to just say, like, hey, I'm UltraSeven, in like every single series now.
Yeah, I want to say this was the third one, right? So it was Ultra Q, and then Ultraman, and then 7.
Yep. That is right. Yep. The professor and I, we actually sat down before we even considered doing Tokusatsu manga, and we watched all of Ultraman before we even went on to UltraSeven. And, you know, just as a primer, like, I went into a little bit of the production history for Ultraman, and Eiji Tsuburaya, who, if you're a giant freaking nerd like the professor, you'll know his name already because he worked with Toho for the first couple Godzilla films. He is a special effects legend who developed a lot of practical effects that are well known even to this day. And he made Tsuburaya Productions, which is effectively the Japanese version of ILM, and they continue to do things once again, you know, up to this day as a special effects, practical effects, just kind of studio that specializes in that, in addition to doing their own series. And as I understand it, the impetus for him doing Ultra Q was he wanted to do his own Twilight Zone. And I stop me if I'm wrong, Professor, but I honestly think that he did that still is true in Ultraman and UltraSeven.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. You see a lot of that in early Ultras, where it's definitely his way of going, I'm going to do my own Twilight Zone, but it's also going to coincidentally be a superhero show at the same time.
Absolutely. And this comes to light, at least in UltraSeven, I think probably with one of my favorite episodes, Red Seed Cigarette episode. You probably know exactly the one I'm talking about, huh, God?
Oh yeah,
because it's one of the first. It's one of like the real singers early on. There's a few of them. Where they use red seeds in cigarettes in order to mind control an entire town, and the Ultra Guard has no idea. The Ultra Guard being this Japanese agency specifically designed to, you know, hunt down and take care of aliens, which is a very important distinction because the human organization in Ultraman itself, the Science Patrol, was not so much designed to fight monsters or kaiju. They were supposed to just be like just a general series of scientists who were kind of shanghaied into fighting monsters. A lot of times they seem to be taken off guard, and for the number of aircraft that they have that they seem to destroy, they seem like a very threadbare kind of, you know, it's a bunch of bureaucrats and scientists. They don't have a whole lot of budget, despite the fact that they seem to have new aircraft every episode.
Oh yeah.
You know, Shin Hayata just freaking kamikazes them accidentally. It's not that he does it on purpose, but he seems to just conveniently get in a lot of airplane crashes. And it kind of became a running joke between Snek and myself, where it's like, I just have to wonder how much the captain of the Science Patrol gets his just his ass chewed out. Because, like, are you saying that you lost another airplane? Yes, sir. I'm sorry. We're going to bring this up at the next budget meeting. So, yeah, but meanwhile, on the opposite side of this, the Ultra Guard has their act together. And while they do lose a lot of material, they seem to have a lot more going for them than literally like 7 people all in one location. So, and getting back to what I was talking about, they don't know what's going on. And the alien actually invites Stan Moriboshi, the Ultraman of this series, who is actually an alien. He's not just a guy being possessed by an Ultraman this time. He's like, yeah, see, you're an alien. This isn't your homeworld. Why do you care what happens to them? I'm just going to take them all over. They're all going to become cigarette zombies. And then they'll kill each other. And then I'll just, sneak in and take over. This is such a great plan. And, Dan Moriboshi's like, I'm sorry. I am the protector of Earth. I can't just let you mind control people with cigarettes. And they have such a great zinger at the end of that. I'll let you talk about it, Professor, because you really like this one.
It is a fantastic moment where essentially, to recap front to back, suddenly people are going crazy and it's like attacking each other. And you're told like, oh, this guy starts attacking random people on the street. Well, then you hear, oh, this husband literally terrified his wife and child because he went crazy. And it's all this stuff. And you see these people after the fact and they're like, oh, no, I have no idea what happened. I just blacked out. Well, it turns out there are these little red seeds in the cigarettes. And yeah, that does sort of date this show a little bit, I suppose. But the whole thing being that smoking was such a common cultural phenomenon. I mean, replace it with like vaping and you can pretty much modernize this story very easily. But then the ending of the episode,
or cell phone use.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Any kind of tech use, you could do it. The ending of the episode takes it a step further.
Yeah.
Because it says, oh, you have nothing to fear. This sort of story can't happen today because it requires a level of trust that humankind doesn't have in itself yet.
Pretty much.
And it's like, that is such an amazing, just mic drop moment. I'm like, yeah.
That's a moment.
Yeah.
It is probably the single best stinger like that in the entire series. All of UltraSeven, I would say that's probably up and away the best one.
There was one in Ultraman that I thought was really good when they had the wish-granting orb.
Oh, yeah.
And Ito, the main scientist and weapons development guy, basically goes, yeah, humans probably shouldn't have the ability to endlessly wish for whatever we want without consequence. Because Ultraman just takes this orb that causes all this insanity and ultimately leads to the creation of a monster and takes it back into space. And the commander's like, what's going on? Where's the orb? And it's like, yeah, humans shouldn't have this power. But yeah, that probably was the best little stinger like that.
Yep.
God, there were a few of them, though. I'm trying to remember.
There were several great ones. I had to say that would be the best one if I had to pick just one.
The first main standout I thought was Ella King. But I might be a little bit biased because Ella King actually is a recurring monster and he's one of my favorites. He's the giant electric banana.
You mean the stinger of people will literally do anything if the girl asking them to do it is cute enough?
Yeah, but see,
that's I don't know. That's a bit of a jaded moral.
No, well, see, that's okay. That you have to remember. I'm coming from Ultraman, where they had the scene where the Baltan showed up twice after supposedly Ultraman destroys their entire civilization.
That's true.
And yet they're literally fleeing from the scene after Ella King gets decapitated with the Eye Slugger, because UltraSeven's signature attack, unlike his predecessor, he doesn't shoot just a specium ray, a little ray from his hands, in order to blow his enemies up. Oh no, he has this mohawk like fin on the top of his head, and he throws it at his enemies, and it cuts off their heads.
Oh man, do they love some decapitation?
Yeah.
Monster decapitation.
Oh, they did. They did. And so here's the thing. They're flying away, and the two like grasshopper aliens look at each other and they're like, and we'll come back and humans will, always do what we say because we're cute girls. And then they fly away and UltraSeven just goes, nope, just cuts their flying saucer in half. And I'm like, damn, I guess they're not going to, come back again.
Yeah, he's not playing around.
No, he does not.
It's made even funnier, I think, because Toku and I started having a poll every episode. And we're like, okay, is this guy going to be exploded or decapitated? The decapitation quickly became the safe bet.
Actually, yeah, it's funny. They had a later monster. A lot of the monsters that show up in this one are reappear later. One of them that I thought was kind of cool, Bergeron, because he actually reappeared in a Geed episode, Ultraman Geed. He had a kind of a cool Groundhog Day theme going on there. But the thing with UltraSeven was the fact that Bergeron actually has these really hyper hardened limbs. And every single time UltraSeven kept trying to use the eye slugger on him, he'd just go, nope, and just bat it aside with these giant like spindle arms that he had. And he actually had to, as I recall, he choked him to death because he couldn't just cut off his head, which, UltraSeven's a lot more brutal than Ultraman was.
Yeah, there's a lot of speaking of the practical effects, when they do the decapitations, it's like kind of visceral. They have like blood and everything coming out of the monster and stuff like that. It's heads are like exploding and stuff. It's pretty visceral at moments for a tokusatsu, for an early tokusatsu series.
Oh, if you like this, I've seen bits from Ultraman Ace, which is 2 series down because there was Return of Ultraman or Ultraman Jack. And then there's Ace. And they actually had a scene where they had one kaiju rip another kaiju in half. And I saw that. I'm like, wow, they must have blastered the 2 chunks together. And unlike certain other monsters, they had one in Ultraman, which was very clearly just 2 guys, walking side by side. It was a much more comprehensive effect. But even then, honestly, going from Ultraman to UltraSeven, just the practical effects were markedly better. The suits were there was a thing. Unfortunately, the vast majority and once again, kind of going back to what the problem with Mobile Suit Gundam, they only had so much budget for each episode. I understand why they did it. And plus, it was the mid-60s. We're talking about 66 to 67 was the run period for the original Ultraman. And this is 67 to 68 right now. So, Godzilla isn't even that old yet. And yet we have, as you're talking about, bits where they actually have the suit in such a way that the head will just pop off and just spray blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And it looks pretty decent even today.
Yeah, it's crazy the influence this show has had when I really sit down and think about it. Because as soon as I sat down and watched it again, I was like, holy crap, he's literally all the way reminded me of a Super Nintendo game that I was playing back when I was a kid. He's got all the exact same movements. It was like King of the Monsters 2 on Super Nintendo. And it was this big kaiju fight battle. And they had a giant character that literally would do the same move where he would grab the blade and throw it.
Are you talking about, oh God, what is his name? Ultra? I think I know which one you're talking about. Was it Ultra Joe or something like that? What's the guy's name? Because he was just a big silver guy, like an Ultra.
Yeah, he literally had the same blade on his head, and the front cover was him giving this not Godzilla a noogie. And he had the exact same attack. I don't remember the name of the character off the top of my head.
Because it's funny because they're
Atomic Guy. That's who it was. Atomic Guy. That's what he was called.
Oh, okay.
That was an SNK game.
Yeah, I was about to say that sounded familiar. I think I played that one before on MAME.
But yeah, he had the exact same maneuvers, and that was in the 90s or so. So you could tell it's had a long run, and even in the current series, 7 shows up in Ultraman Z, the one that's currently airing right now. So yeah, he's had a long influence in the Ultra Brothers series.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to talk about another famous series that UltraSeven is more or less responsible for? Look no further than Pocket Monsters or Pokemon.
Oh, yes, we didn't talk about that.
Dan Moriboshi has these little capsules on his belt. Little capsules that hold little monsters in them. And he can throw the capsule out to send the monster out to fight on his behalf. If this is starting to sound kind of familiar, it's because it is.
R.I.P. in pieces, Windom, by the way.
Poor Windom. He every time he showed up, something terrible happened to him.
Yeah, and then he died. Yeah, he actually got killed.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he died. He died, yeah. And weirdly enough, he just kind of shows up again in Ultraman Z with no real explanation. He got better, I guess.
It was just a flesh wound.
Well, I mean, if dying... If you died when you're killed, then old Ella King would be just super dead then. He's died like 5 times.
Well, that is true. You are not wrong.
You can't kill that which has no life.
I guess you're true. Although, I mean, poor Ella King and Taro, he just wanted to dance, and Taro's like, "You're not in my neighborhood, you're not."
Man, I had a blast watching this. I am a tokusatsu apologist. I even like some of the series that are considered not great, just because like there's so much creativity that goes into these shows. When I'm watching these, like, holy crap, you think about like all the paper mache and like, we need more fireworks over here. They were probably doing behind the sets of these shows. It's just like it's so much fun, and I love the practical effects. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, no, dude, it really, that was one of the coolest bits. And like a lot of the, like, for instance, I found myself a few times going, I know how they did that. Like they had a few bits where they had like UltraSeven like pick things up, and they'd have his hand be like really big and they drop something. The way they did that was they actually would have his hand much closer to the camera than whatever he was supposed to be picking up. So then the suit actor would just lift up his hand, and it looked like his hand was really big because of foreshortening. And so it was kind of a cool, like, perspective trick. And they had a few other things like that. But I mean, honestly, the budget, it's not super great. But even as I say this, you know what another good twist episode was? The robot planet with the one guy who was constantly like chewing ice.
Oh yeah, the weird ice chewing guy.
Yeah.
I really want to know how, when the guy opened his head up and they had like all the gears and everything, how they were able to do that. If that was like a prop, or if they actually had like a prosthetic that the guy had to wear. I wasn't able to figure that one out. That'd be cool.
Oh man. The creativity that goes into these shows, like CGI is cool and all, and I love how the genre of tokusatsu has progressed in both combining, you know, modern CGI and practical effects, that they have not let that go, because there's just something to just, it feels more real. And just looking back at shows like this, it's like, good Lord, the creativity that the effects teams had to have on these shows, and to just, because they didn't have all the computers and everything to be like, hey, let's make this, you know, explode this way. Or like Dataku's talking about, let's have his head open up and show all the gears and things like that. Like, this is all just pure creativity.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you a funny thing, Cog. They weren't entirely certain that they were going to do an Ultraman. There was actually about 4 different ideas that they were going to do, and about 2 of them, because originally they were just going to do a series about an alien who comes to Earth and fights with giant monsters against giant monsters. And then they were also going to plan on doing like a Ultraman: The Next Generation, where Ultraman shows up again, but his host is now Shin Hayata and Uji's son. They kind of split the difference on that one, and so UltraSeven is able to both summon monsters and is also an Ultra. But they had another series called Bioplanet Wu, whereupon it's this teenage girl who has a tiny little... Now, stop me if you've heard this one before, but he's a tiny little dragon monster, and he links himself symbiotically, like telepathically, to this girl, so the girl can communicate with him and he can with her. But when she's in trouble, because of the strength of her emotions, he is able to dig deep inside his alien biology and evolve to a new form, which increasingly gets stronger and bigger until he becomes a gigantic kaiju-sized biped. I know. This sounds like absolutely nothing you've probably ever heard of, especially Digimon. I mean, what? Sorry, I'm coughing, but
What? What could that be?
yeah. But they actually used Wu, one of his forms, in UltraSeven, and later on in, I want to say around 2000, they made Wu his own series, which was kind of cool. It's kind of short, but I mean, I totally agree with you. There's a lot of creativity going on, and I think Tsuburaya and his cohorts at that point, it was kind of a rare moment where you had a lot of really creative, really talented people all together in the same area. And you were able to make some really cool stuff. Even if they probably didn't have the technology and the money to really realize what they were going for, they were still able to make a lot of great stuff.
Oh, I have to talk about some of the dub for this as well. I think it's called the Sinar dub. There's actually been a couple dubs for this show, I believe. But the one that I found, because I would flip back and forth between the subtitles and the Japanese version and the dubbed version. And I didn't hate the dub for this one. It was actually a lot of fun. It's very, mystery science theater at moments. There were just so many sequences where I just like the way they did the dub. I just cracked up laughing. It's so hard. It was just ridiculous. There's just so many moments in these classic shows. We go back to it's like a lot like going back and watching original Star Trek because it has those silly campy moments. I mean, like all these little things. One of the ones that really popped out to me was the English title for it was like Toys in Crisis, but then the Japanese one.
I know what episode you're talking about. Yeah. It's the one with the guy who could control toys and he had like the hot assassin android or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. The Japanese title, I think, was Operation Android Zero. Holy crap. I was just on the floor. There were so many lines in that one. They've got this old guy in the dub. He's like, "Hey kids, look, this is no ordinary plane. This one can fly." Like, your fucking planes don't fly. Like, it's like, but like with the dubs, it was just so. And there's this other guy in the scene, like, it was one of the Ultra Squad guys, and he's like sitting there flicking his lighter, and he's like, click, 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 and he's just counting 31, 32, 33. Ugh, American trash. It's like pissed off at the lighter. There's so many little moments. I was just like, this is fantastic.
That honestly was a really good Zinger moment too. The entire humans and their violence. I mean, you give their children weapons and they'll kill each other before they realize what they're doing. I'm like,
yeah,
I feel personally attacked right now.
And then Dan calls into the chief and he's like, sir, hold on. So Dan calls into the chief, and the chief was like, "So, what is Operation Toyland? Tell us, Dan." He's like, "Well, sir, it's an alien plot to take over the Earth." And the chief is just like, "Oh, I see. So the usual."
Well, I mean, at that point,
yeah. Like in Ultraman proper, you would notice that like a lot of the monsters were like creatures native to Earth or were descendants of Earth creatures. Whereas in UltraSeven, most of the time, they were alien.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In fact, that was the weird thing about Wu, is that it was terrestrial in nature. Everyone thought it was an alien, but nope. He's just a guy. He's just like a giant yeti that lives out in the mountains.
And that's one, I think, where they had he had a girl with him. Oh, there's so many of these crazy lines when you go back and watch these shows, especially with these weird dubs. Because literally the next scene, there was Dan's like protecting the guy, and he's running up, and he's like, the woman comes running up to him, and he's like, "I'll run away from toys, but not girls." And you're like, what?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say, unfortunately, I can't share the dub with you there, Cog, because Snek.
I have an older box set of UltraSeven, and it's not the current running one from Mill Creek Entertainment. It's someone else, and they don't have any of the dubs that UltraSeven had on the box set. It's literally just subtitles.
I'm pretty sure that it's a steel case box set that Mill Creek has right now is the same as the one you have. It's just you have an older version of that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure because it's from the same guys who are doing the new re-releases now. Please, Mill Creek, do Taro. I want to see the insanity of an alien ultra Japanese, fairy tale hero killing the crap out of a giant Pinocchio. I need this in my life. Okay. He fights a giant alien Pinocchio. All right. So unfortunately we weren't able to share in your joy of the MST3K. It probably would have enhanced the experience though.
Oh man, that's horrible. It was another one that really popped out to me was this. It was like episode 20, the Quake Maker is what the English episode was.
Oh yes, that was a good one too. The entire time with that one, Snek was like, buy all our playsets and toys, because they kept pulling out new vehicles and stuff.
Oh my gosh. In the dub, they encounter this old doctor guy. He's in this random house, at least in the dub version, literally they save these two women who were in a road rally. That they're just oh, well, I guess we're not going to win the road rally now. And then suddenly they're going with the Ultra Squad to go check this doctor out in this random house. And they're knocking on the door. The doctor shows up and he's like, why are you knocking so hard? You could bring the whole building down on us. And he's just really grumpy and angry. And it was just a joy to watch. They go in and they're having this little sit down moment where they're having tea or whatever. And the Ultra Guard are sir, we have to make sure this place is safe from the aliens. And the doctor's I'll tell you what caused this earthquake. It was aliens. And then it's just
oh, no way.
And then they go inside, right? And until he's just super demanding. And it's just, he's make some coffee and get some cookies. And then he's
no, well, if it makes you feel better, that is the way he was in that episode in the original. Yeah,
he is very much like that. It with the dub, it was just so ridiculous, because then a random guy comes walking downstairs sir, I finished setting up all the instruments, and the old guy's sitting there well, now if only this building had electricity. It's just oh, I loved it.
Well, I mean, he was right to be wary. I mean, lest we forget, we had the episode, I want to say it was episode 4.
Oh, yeah.
Was the one with the evil plant monster that possessed an astronaut. And then on top of that, we had episode 12, I want to say, which is the one where they had the nuclear physicist, and they had aliens who built a giant interrogation chamber under his house, made an evil clone of his wife, and had the clone trying to torture the information they wanted out of him. And it's no, this guy is actually kind of legit. He actually is being prepared. The other guys were not prepared.
And I actually did enjoy how they kind of developed some of the Ultra Squad. Some of my favorite episodes were also moments where they would actually get involved, the 2-parter episode where they're fighting the robot that they can't.
Oh, King Joe, yeah.
It comes apart and they can't beat him, and then he's actually there. The rest of the squad's actually getting involved, and it's we got to find a way to break the armor and all sorts of stuff like that. It's great. They do end up developing certain characters more in specific episodes. You get the episode where you get to see Seven actually copy and save a guy that he based his image on and things like that. And I also loved Amagi. I think was my favorite, not UltraSeven, not specific UltraSeven character, member of Ultra Squad, because for his just fear of explosions episodes. He's but sir, I'm so afraid of explosions. Exactly.
Which is funny because he's a weapon specialist. I'll tell you something funny about him though, Cog. Not sure if you're aware of this. He actually is the suit actor for Ultraman.
Is he really?
He was, yeah.
Fantastic.
Which was a lot of problems originally in production, because apparently the costume designer who made the suits specifically made them measured to his measurements, but then he became Amagi. He wasn't going to be the suit actor anymore, so they had to throw out that entire suit and make a new one, because apparently the suit actor was like slightly shorter and it would not have fit him. No, you're absolutely right though. My main thing was though is that like Furuhashi, he always was kind of weird to me because once again, he actually showed up in the original Ultraman as Arashi, where he kind of was like, well, I'm kind of dumb, guys. I'll just shoot him with a gun. And meanwhile, in this one, he's like always really, really sarcastic and just like, aliens, schmalians.
Aliens are stupid.
I mean, Earth is like seriously like hot commodity. Like this is some serious real estate here.
Oh yeah, but I mean that's kind of a thing you kind of notice that in later Ultras. It's just no matter what series it is, like aliens just seem to just show up, even to the point in like Geed, where they basically have the Men in Black who have to like regulate how many aliens are on the planet at any given point.
They did have a few that there was one that I can recall that actually just up and left, where he like talked to Seven. He's like, okay, I'll take your word on it, and he just like flies off. But yeah, a lot of the other ones do get beat down.
And you'll notice a thing, profound arrogance gets you killed in this universe, because there are several instances where UltraSeven will kick the snot out of the monster of the week, and they'll get down and grovel. And Seven is just kind of like, fine, if you're really sorry, we'll leave it at that. And then they're like, haha, you lowered your guard. And he's like, well, I have to chop your head off now.
Yeah, like the Kappa, which literally started doing the Dokensha pose, the I'm deeply sorry, like really low bow. And then he turns his back, and at which point he's like, I got you. And UltraSeven had to blow him up. I want to say, was it the Pegas aliens who were the ones who just up and left?
They might have been.
I think so. It was one. Yeah, he has a talk with them. He's like, they're literally having a fight, and then they end up like stopping, and he comes to the alien comes to the rationalization that, oh, well, UltraSeven's from space, and I'm an alien from space, and so he says not to bother the people, so I'll take his word on it, and he just like flies away.
Yeah, I do recall that. It might not have been Pegas.
I forget, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I forgot to write down the actual episode number.
The thing with Pegas, though, is that we watched Geed before we watched Ultraman, which is a relatively new series. It was 2016 to 2017. And it's, for you, Cog, I don't know how familiar you are with them. It basically was the Ultraman Decade.
Okay.
Where he would get forms based off of old Ultras. And his best friend /
a lot of the new Ultras do that.
Well, I don't know. It seemed like it was more of his like gimmick. But considering what happened in the beginning of the series, that's more understandable. But I remember his like sidekick character was Pegas, Alien Pegas. And the entire thing is then when I saw him in UltraSeven, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that guy. Except he's not wearing his tracksuit. That's really weird. In G, they just have the suit actor dressed as the alien, and then they put like an Adidas tracksuit over him because he's supposed to just be a lazy bum who literally is just hanging out with G when he's not, fighting aliens. But in UltraSeven, they have him in like this really weird, like Rococo outfit with like ruffles and stuff. I don't know. It was kind of cool.
Okay, guys, hot seat time.
Oh boy,
favorite alien invader.
Oh boy.
Oh,
I'd have to say the Guts aliens. I might be a little bit biased, though. They literally crucified UltraSeven, and they were this close to winning. They should have been the final boss. They should have been. They were so good. They even literally had the point where they're like analyzing what he could do. They were the smartest ones about actively trying to kill him. And, once again, it's the supreme arrogance. They let their guard down. They thought they were going to win after they imprisoned him. So that's it for me. It's Guts aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing is a lot of them show up later too. We're kind of making our way through this series. I mean, considering it's been 50 years and there's like 40 episodes or 40 series, it's going to be a while, but I mean, I'm having fun with it. So, and we're noticing a lot of returns of various creatures and stuff. What about you, Professor? What's your favorite?
That is an excellent question. The Guts were really cool. They definitely leave an impact on you. I forget their name, but I actually really thought it was interesting during the Red Seed cigarette episode where he
Alien Murton? Alien Metron?
Yeah, where he's literally like, sit down, let me explain. I will tell you exactly what I have planned. And I'm like, that is a profound level of arrogance, but at the same time, I'm kind of impressed.
Yeah, Alien Metron. That was his name.
All right, yeah. The sheer guts to sit across from an Ultra and be like, okay, here's the plan. I'm going to just lay it out there for you.
Oh, that's right.
He actually has his own SH figure art. That is awesome. No, I was just going to say, just in case you want your UltraSeven figure art to, cut off his head.
I think I'm going to go with just Dinosaur Tank. Because that was just awesome.
That was incredible.
That was such a weird, that was such a weird out of, I honestly looked away. I'm like, wait a second, is that a dinosaur in a tank? And it's
a dinosaur in a tank. It is.
There's no explanation for it either. There's
exactly. No, there isn't. I think that was episode 28. It was 700 kilometer or something. Death on Wheels.
Yeah, it just literally comes out of nowhere. It's one of the few monsters that actually does not get any explanation whatsoever.
Yeah, it's just there, and it's doesn't care.
Because it's a dinosaur tank. Why does it have to answer to you?
Exactly.
That honestly, I thought was a cool thing in terms of UltraSeven, is they laid the groundwork for why the alien monster showed up. Whereas in Ultraman, it's just well, it's a kaiju. I guess we got to go kill it. And they really did not explain.
Yeah.
Except for maybe, I want to say the one with the one where they go to Egypt and they kind of the cult of Ultra.
Oh yeah.
That was one of your favorite episodes there, Professor, as I recall.
Yeah. Not only do we eventually see said Ultra, I'm trying to remember. I just saw a YouTube video and the guy talks about this. It's originally is very clearly based on the original Ultraman, but there's definitely some differences. If you look at between him and the first costume, I want to say he's the secondary Ultra from Ultraman Mebius. And you actually they do give confirmation that it was him who was the icon of worship for those people.
Ultraman Nexus.
Nexus? That sounds right.
It was Ultraman Noah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Noah. Yeah, Noah.
And apparently he has an evil counterpart, Dark Sagi.
Huh. All right.
Yeah, that's another thing, actually. You might have cut on this a few times there, Cog, but did you know that... I know this... It's probably good that you're sitting down, but did you know that Eiji Tsuburaya was actually a very devout Catholic?
I did not know that.
Well, I mean, the part where the Guts Seijin literally... crucify him, and you see the sun, sinking into the.
It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense
into the horizon, and they're going, ha 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 ha, we have beaten UltraSeven, and it's there sure is a lot of symbolism here.
Yeah,
there is some symbolism on the screen.
Yeah, and that's not the first time they do that either.
It's not the last.
I want to say,
unfortunately, UltraSeven has to leave us for a time.
Yeah,
near the end of the series, he gets damaged through all his long battles protecting the Earth. Near the end of the series, we have a final battle, a 2-part episode with Pandon, I think it was called, the red one.
Yeah,
who also gets decapitated.
Let me check. I'm currently on the Ultraman wiki right now because I'm trying to be. I realized in a lot of my earlier things, I have been giving out misinformation. For instance, Tomokazu Sugita does not voice Gintama. That would be weird. Why would he voice an entire anime? It's Gintoki.
We're gonna have to do a corrections segment.
We'll do a special episode for that.
You're right. His name is King Panda.
Yeah,
that is his name.
Not Panda. I knew it was something similar to Panda.
It's something. I don't think we've even covered this yet. For people who don't know, Ultraman and the Ultramen are alien creatures who visit and protect the Earth. And the thing is, they are solar powered. The light of the sun gives them tremendous energy to perform their superhuman feats. The downside is the atmosphere of the Earth is very different than the atmosphere of their homeland. And it actually kind of saps their strength to be exposed to it for long spans of time. So over the course of UltraSeven is a very, very capable warrior in his own right, but he's basically been in a situation where his healing has at best been subpar. So he's fighting these guys over and over and over and sustaining all these injuries over time. So by the time the last, two-parter episode comes up, he's already half dead. And he's like, you're not getting all your power back. You need to stop.
His superior is literally telling him to come home. And he's like, no, there are alien invaders who still want to conquer Earth. And Earth is a peaceful place and they can't defend themselves.
Yeah. Yes. And then he has to return to Nebula M78 at the end of the series.
The Land of Light. But that hasn't been established yet.
Yeah. We know the name of the galaxy it's in. We just don't know that it's called the Land of Light, but it's called the Land of Light.
Yeah.
That we learn all this later on because the beautiful thing about Showa Ultraman, is all the series kind of built off each other in terms of lore. Whereas in Ultraman Jack, which is the next one, Ultraman shows up. And we realize that all three of the series are in continuity with each other. And then in Ultraman Ace, they go, it turns out that they actually live in this paradise civilization in Nebula M78 called the Land of Light. And in Ultra Taro, they create the idea of the Ultra Brothers, where it's like all the Ultras who go out and defend other planets are considered like this big family, and that's basically what they have stuck with even up till today, which is crazy considering that for a while they kind of ignored that, and then Ultraman, I want to say Eos. It was one of the early aughts ones. Basically, it was like multiverses. They're all connected. Everything's canon now.
Oh, yeah.
Even Ultraman Powered.
Yeah, stuff you wouldn't expect. The American-made Ultraman Powered, the animated series, Gridman,
and SSSS Gridman, yes,
are all in continuity with Ultraman.
Yeah, so Gridman's considered an Ultra Brother there, Cog.
Fascinating. I did not know that. See, I remember seeing Ultraman long time ago with the Godzilla crossover movies because I was a big Godzilla fan. So I, of course, knew about Ultraman early on. And then I found Gridman looking through VHS videos randomly, and I picked it up thinking it was Ultraman. And it wasn't until years later that I discovered that it was, the same studio that produced it.
No, he's considered a Ultra Brother. I mean, he looks like an Ultra Brother, so...
Oh yeah, he absolutely does.
We should do if we're ever going to do like return of Toku month, we should do like Ace or Taro if they decide to do that.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Do Toku Part 2 or Toku
Toku month. Toku month RX.
Yes.
So gentlemen, so we don't do what we did last time. And we just fanboy because we all seem to really enjoy the series. But final thoughts.
UltraSeven is really, really good. And being someone who has been a fan of the original Ultraman, I was really happy that these are becoming more widely accessible. Sort of fits my MO as the hipster, right? I mean, I don't watch HBO. That's too mainstream. I prefer really obscure 1960s Toku series. You've probably never heard of it.
I want to say something, but you're also a huge fan of Showa Godzilla and old Kamen Rider. So
I mean, yeah. Kind of goes without saying. No, UltraSeven is really good, and it took the ideas, established an Ultraman, gave it a little bit more of a streamlining. I will say it's hard for me to pick one over the other because I actually think the Science Patrol, I think, had a bit more personality, and I think they were a little more fun when they were on camera. They seemed very put upon, whereas the Ultra Guard seemed a bit more professional. Like they kind of have been doing this for a while, and they kind of knew what's what.
Yeah, there really was no replacement for Ito, was there?
Yeah, no, there really wasn't. You didn't get that that one character who was like exclusively for comedy, and Dan's a really morose lead character, especially when you kind of see Hayata being a bit more mischievous later on in Ultraman 1966. So I have mixed feelings, but overall, I think they're all fantastic. And I don't understand this weird divide between like old school and new generation Ultra fans. I think those differences are very very overstated. Ultraman has stayed incredibly true to its origin from the beginning and going forward. And UltraSeven just helped solidify that legacy. A solid 9 out of 10. Though I'm only disappointed in that it wasn't a little worse, so I could make the obligatory 7 out of 10 pun.
I mean, that is kind of the thing that solidified me as an Ultra fan is the continuity. You used to see that in Kamen Rider, and then just kind of they shrugged and went, we're not doing that anymore.
Yeah, around after Z Cross, they quit doing it.
Yeah. It's like, we're not doing that anymore. I'm like, but that was cool. But anyways, how about you, Cog?
I really enjoyed this series. I don't have a lot of complaints. It's a fun Toku series. It's obviously one of the more influential ones I think people should check out. And I mean, I am still partial to my Kamen Rider and stuff like that, but I love Ultraman too. I don't have any complaints. I'm right there with I think Mr. Snek broke it down. I think Mr. Snek nailed it there. I'm gonna have to copy his score there and give this a 9 out of 10 because it was just a lot of fun.
I'm gonna have to be the outlier here. UltraSeven is my favorite Toku hero. I just saw his design one day and went, whoa, who is this guy? And I started looking into him. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And I haven't ever actually sat down and watched the entire series. So this was actually really neat. A lot darker than I thought it was going to be, but I think that, added to it is like, this was considered children's entertainment back in the 1960s. Pretty wild.
Shows you how times have changed.
But at the same time, though, that might be why it had such lasting appeal. If you can imagine like little kids in the 1960s, those little boys would go on to be like the Akira Toriyama, the Togashi, the people that are like leading like manga and anime and like Japanese pop culture now.
Oh yeah.
So it's little wonder that it's kind of stayed with us. It's like, can you imagine like, when you were 6 or 7 and then you suddenly saw just like Superman chopping off bad guys' heads or something? I don't know about you, but if I was, as I recall myself when I was 6 or 7, I'd be like, awesome. This is so cool. He's like just blowing these guys away. So no, I would have to say 10 out of 10. Even with its flaws, and I know it's flawed, I think it still adds to the appeal just because kind of like what you were talking about, Cog, with like the original series of Star Trek. Yes, it's very clear that it was made in a particular time. Very clear that they had a very limited budget for special effects, but still, with what they were able to do and seeing like the creativity that was on display, I think it's just fantastic, and it's definitely a must-watch as far as I'm concerned.
No, that makes sense.
Absolutely fantastic.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And there's one thing I do want to say, because we watched Ultraman and then UltraSeven pretty much back to back with very little in between them, and the thing is, I'm glad I did, and I want everyone to take this to heart because the world needs Ultraman more today than they did in 1966. Ultraman is a series that focuses on the triumphs of humanity. And there's an episode in 66 where there's a meteor heading towards Earth, and it's only because of Ultraman's intervention that they're able to do anything about it at all. And the captain of the Science Patrol has this speech at the end of the episode where he's like, we were powerless today, but if something like that ever happens again, hundreds of years from now, science will continue to advance for the betterment of men, and good men will make sure that it does, and will be ready when something like this happens again. Ultraman has an unrelentingly positive and life-affirming message across it in its entirety. And even having watched Jeed, that hasn't changed.
Yep.
And you see that very strong theming throughout. And honestly, given the way people are today, the way that the situation is today, current events being what they are, we need that kind of optimism that Ultraman provides more now than then.
Oh, definitely. Well, I think it's a case of, there was a lot of bad stuff going on too.
Oh, no, definitely. Like those entire episodes dedicated to the Cold War. They literally have a when does it stop moment when they literally make a bomb that just blows an entire planet out of existence.
Yeah, that's a good question too, by the way, where there are like several situations where they get into standoffs with other alien civilizations on other planets. And I'm thinking to myself, like, hold on, don't they have like a nuclear missile that can blow up planets? And they're like, they never bring that up again.
Yeah.
But no, I absolutely agree. The black pill crowd these doomers and naysayers are like, oh, nothing will ever get better. It's like, guys, nothing's ever going to get better unless you work at it. And that requires you to be optimistic. It's that change that you want to make has to start from within. As Michael Jackson once said, famously saying, you have to take a look at yourself and you have to make that change. So you're absolutely right. I totally agree with you, Professor. We do need to take that to heart. Everybody.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it definitely... You nailed it on the head. It carries through the Ultra series because even the current running Ultraman Z is very. There's only a few episodes out as of this recording, but from what I've been watching of that too, it's the same positive message, which is fantastic, and I love it. It's great. It's a load of fun. I think more people should check this stuff out.
Okay, I'm getting down off my soapbox now.
Okay. All right. Well. Okay. So, Professor. We had a few other series, I want to say. However, we also, in light of certain situations, we realized that part of the problem with our dear friend, Mr. Cog here, was the fact that we were rigging the things against him. Not intentionally, mind. But we realized we were kind of swapping numbers around. So...
Because... Basically, for those at home, what was happening is using a random number generator is one thing, but we also were shuffling around the order in which the things were being listed. So you have 2 layers of randomness instead of the intended one.
I didn't even realize that.
So we probably were inadvertently making it harder for Cog to actually win than should have been. If we had consistently, like throughout Gundam Month, for instance, if the numbering had been consistent, we might have had different results.
I cannot for the life of me see it. I'm not even sure if I'm in the right thing. I don't remember.
Where did we put it? We are really well organized, guys.
Oh yeah, we're good at this.
We got it. We got it by the balls, but it's very loose grip.
Yeah, because you got to be gentle.
Yeah, you can't get overly rough with this sort of thing.
Yes, here we go. So number 1 was UltraSeven. Bam. All right, so number 2 is Makai Knight Garo. Number 3 is Kamen Rider Black. And number 4 is Tattoo Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills. Oh, yeah, I love that one. God damn it.
We'll cipher everything down one number. All right, ready? Number 2.
That would be Black. Kamen Rider Black.
All right,
Cog. We did it. We found out what the problem was.
Look at that.
See, that's funny because we just literally finished Garo, Snek and I. So that means that we're no longer ahead. We're going to have to, we're going to have to watch, people getting kicked to death now.
Oh, of course.
We're going to be a little bit ahead. Yeah.
Wait, does he have Revolcane as Black or is that just Black RX?
That might be RX. I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I watched Black all the way through.
We'll double check. Well, either way, our next show is Kamen Rider Black.
Yes. Join us next time.
Yep. Alrighty. Thank you much. Have a great one, ladies and gents.
Thank you for listening to the Tomodachi Brothers Review Podcast, produced and recorded by the Hipster Snek, Toku, and Cog. Sound design and editing by executive producer Sean Taylor Brown with Cog Sound Engineering. Music written and performed by Sean Taylor Brown with Costas Vaz of Core Insight Studio on the drums. We hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time.